Action Democratic Party, Yagbaji Sani. We also have the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, and also the presidential candidate of the Sustainable National Party, Mr. Ahmed Buhari.
So we'll be taking them on various questions, what you want them to do as it concerns Nigeria, what are their plans, they're throwing their hats into the ring to contest for the presidency, hoping to occupy the Aso Rock Villa. So we'll throw these questions to them, but before that, there's a little profile that we've put together, a graphic illustration of who these three candidates are. Like we might just said, Ahmed Buhari is a businessman, and he is the presidential candidate of the Sustainable National Party, the SNP, while Yusuf Yagbayi, 64 years old, is the presidential candidate, and incidentally, he's also the national chairman of the African Action Democratic Party. So that is Yusuf Yagbayi for you. And Sowore, a former students' union leader in my alma mater, the University of Lagos. He's a publisher. He's also the founder and owner of the Sahara Reporters, an online media platform. So we'll have those slides for us. We can look at their profile on the slides shortly.
Martins, can you let Larry know that the video or their son is not playing?
Welcome back to the program. It's the AIT leads the presidential candidates, and we'll launch straight into the discussion. But before then, let's just have a short profile. We showed you something earlier. Let me just say something about some of the candidates, three of them we have here this morning. Engineer Yusuf Yagbaji was born on the 1st of July 1954 in Dida, local government area of Niger State. He had his early education from 1961, his primary school in Bida, Niger State. And after primary education, he attended secondary technical school in Kotangora from 1970 to 1974. And he began his career in Nigeria's oil services sector with the NNPC. He was a depot chief of the depot in Kano from 1980 to 1983. And later, he threw his hat into the ring as a politician.
Ahmed Buhari of the Sustainable National Party is a 38-year-old Lagos-based businessman. He is the CEO of Skylar Inc. He is from Kontagora in Niger State. He has degrees from the Federal University of Technology and Cavendish College, London.
Okay, Omoyele Sowore is from Ondo State, Ilaje to be precise, and he was born in the Niger Delta region of the country. He is a founder of Sahara Reporters. He went to the University of Lagos. In fact, he was the Students' Union leader at the University of Lagos. And he earned a degree there before he went to Columbia University in the US. And then he lectures at the City University of New York and the School of Arts in New York. He's a prolific writer, he's a public speaker, he's also a human rights activist. So these are the three candidates we have on Meet the Candidates this morning. So, you mind? Let's take it up.
Yes, we want to give the candidates an opportunity to make opening statements about their plans, the thrust of their campaign, their policies, and what they have for Nigerians. First, we'll start with Yagbaji Sani of the AIT.
Okay, good morning, Nigerians. It's a pleasure to be here. I know this is a historic event that we arrived the 2019 election, and for Nigerians to know who is aspiring to represent them in Aso. I believe that Nigeria has come to a point where urgent intervention is required, because we cannot go back to the status quo ante, meaning that we can't go back to the era of PDP, and we cannot also continue with the status quo that we have today, which means we cannot continue with the administration we have in place today. And I believe that I possess the requirements in terms of qualification, educational qualification. By the way, I also went to Columbia University in New York, and I also attended some programs in Harvard Business School to add to my profile, because you did mention that. And I believe that also prepared me to face these peculiar tasks of rescuing Nigeria politically, economically, and socially. Because in Nigeria, believe you me, we have so much deficit in even the basic 5 requirements of a human being to exist on this planet Earth. That is the biological needs, meaning that the issue of food, the issue of shelter is a challenge to an average Nigerian. The issue of safety is a challenge, to an average Nigerian. The issue of love, the sense of belonging, the government, the administration you have in place does not portray an administration that encompasses all of us. The issue of somebody being able to aspire to become whoever they want to become in this country. You can't stand an election and hope to win even after the votes have been cast for you. So I believe that this country, being a country with the promise of the natural endowment, which is abound everywhere you go in this country, any state you go to, you find something that can make that state independent and can in fact make the whole nation independent. This is a nation that has the promise of greatness, and the only thing, the challenge we have, the distant link between us and that greatness is leadership. So what I'm saying is that a country with this young population that are educated, intelligent, that when you give us opportunity outside this country, we excel. We become either number 1 or a very good number 2. We cannot continue like this, given the promise of this country. Why? Because we cannot go from 7.5 growth rate of GDP to 1.5 growth rate of GDP. Nigerians cannot afford to become the poverty capital of the world with all the resources I've mentioned, which are there abound. We have a comparative advantage in terms of the trade with other countries. If you look at our oil and gas sector, it's a sector that other countries have made very good advantage of in developing their people. What have we done? Today, I was reading that National Assembly was questioning NNPC on the withdrawals from the LNG account. I'll tell you why they can never get to the root of the source of that problem. The reasons are that we don't measure in this country, we don't monitor in this country, we don't control. In this
united people, if we do not have a united people, we cannot have a progressive country. And so those are the things that we stand for. And if we do really truly want to have this Nigerian world to the next level, we must have to create that avenue where we leverage on our comparative economic advantages, have a secure country, decentralize this country, and most importantly, see how we can run this country using proper data management systems.
Okay. Okay, we've had the opening statements of the three presidential candidates. Omoyele Sowore of the Action African Congress, that's the AAC, Yusuf Yagbai of the Action Democratic Party, and of course Ahmed Buhari of the Sustainable National Party. In the next couple of minutes we will be going off for our other segment, that is Kakaki Social, but let's launch into the discussion before we do that. Let me ask Omoyele Sowore. Now, you said it, Nigeria was named, almost everybody is aware of, as the poverty capital of the world ahead of India. What does this mean to you, and how do you intend to address the crisis of poverty and hunger as it concerns Nigeria?
To address the issue of poverty and hunger in this country, we must invest in our people. What we said is that Nigeria's greater resource is not oil, it's not coal, it's not gold, it's not cocoa. It's Nigerian people, and for us to have that future that we deserve and we desire, we must invest in them. In fact, the World Bank came out about 2 months ago and regretted that they forced the Nigerian government over the years to invest not in education, not in health, but in other areas that have not added value to our lives. And this is something that we fought for in the 90s. We fought against the structural adjustment program. We fought to have this country invest in education. In fact, as student leaders, we had what we call ACARET, academic reform, which was the first, best ever program that would have brought about education across the board that would be free, affordable, and available to all Nigerians. So for us to do this, we must do a few things very quickly. One is that we must provide for this country and our people power, electricity, energy. We must make Nigeria secure for Nigerians who are living within Nigeria, for Nigerians who want to come back home, or for anyone for that matter who want to work within the Nigerian space. And we must invest in food security, agriculture, not the subsistence agriculture that we are practicing today, not agriculture of propaganda of, you're talking about rice mills closing down in Malaysia and Singapore, whereas you don't have anyone popping up in Nigeria, but you say that you are producing rice when there are no rice mills in your country. So for us to be able to secure a future for the people of this country, you must start sending our children to school. 13 million of them are out of school who can't even make it to primary school. You're not talking about secondary school, you're not talking about the fact that there are not enough spaces in our university to absorb a team of young people who want to go to school. And finally, it's also important that we understand that when you train, you send people to school, you provide them jobs, and that is what our party plans to do. But first and foremost, providing 5 million jobs through 3 critical intervention areas. We're talking about power through renewable energy, where we want to move the power sector production from 3,000, miserable 3,000 megawatts of electricity today to 24,000 immediately. We're talking about paying living wages to workers. 100,000 naira is our minimum wage, which most people might have condemned, but the people who are condemning it are the same people who are receiving 14 million naira per month. Per month. You know what it takes? It takes about 35 years for a Nigerian worker earning 30,000 naira per month to earn the salary of the Nigerian senator. But the senators are the ones who are complaining, the governors are the ones who are complaining, not the people who are at the bottom, scraping the bottom. So you say you have a question for us?
Okay, so Sowore, you need to hold your thoughts there. We will now go for our Kakaki Social, where Nigerians talk to Nigerians on social media, and AIT brings their views to you. So Mike will take that up, and we'll come back on Meet the Candidates.
Which cam am I using?
Cam
Cam what?
3.
3.
All right. Is this blocking?
No.
Okay.
Breakfast healthy today.
Abuja, Friday 29th November 2018. It's the Dance Salsa Fortnight 2.0. Dance Night. Featuring Nigerians A-Class Salsa Groups, the Salsa Community Abuja, K-Pop winner 2016, Crowd Studio, Venice Concept, and more. Comedy by Funny Boy, MC Koboko, Chris No China, MC Bar, Nick B, Jokes the General, MC Tawaye, and more. Music by FaZe, Star Blocks. On the wheels is DJ Xmat. Appearance by Big Brother Niger, Tin Tony, Tibe Moren, and Binta Bukar of AIT. Venue, Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. Red carpet starts at 6 p.m. with Toby and a date, Friday, November 23rd, 2018. Tickets, regular 5,000 naira, VIP 10,000 naira, table for 10, 200,000 naira. Tickets are available at Dar Communication Complex at Soko. Japanese restaurants will say 2. For reservation, call 0803-322-4022 or 0803-329-4854. This event is powered by
Okay, it's time for us to find out what Nigerians are saying on social media.
Thank you, Shola. Good morning, welcome to Kakaki Social. On this segment of the show, we spotlight the issues that shape conversation in the Nigerian social media. I am Ohimai Amaize. So what's trending this morning? AIT is trending. Kakaki Social is trending. Your presenter is trending on social media. Okay, yesterday, the special assistant to the president on new media, Tolu Ogunlesi, came at AIT and myself on social media yesterday attacking us. He actually called me a PDP agent. And that issue sparked up a lot of reactions yesterday from Nigerians. Let's go to the social media and take a look at what exactly happened and what transpired. Tolu Ogunlesi attacking AIT, attacking your presenter yesterday. He has called me a PDP agent. This is what he tweeted. He said this is the AIT TV show that fabricated the story of a visit by VP and Amechi to OBJ. Show host is a PDP agent with a reputation for fabrications like this, doing dirty work for PDP. Plan was to make it seem like VP went to beg OBJ. His tweet got some reactions. Let's take a look at how Nigerians reacted to this tweet yesterday from Shosheleye Ideraya tweeting at Shosheleye. Tolu, I watch this show every morning, and all they do is read out trending tweets and laugh. They didn't fabricate this story, and they also pointed out that the account quoted was OBJ's parody account. You are changing a lot. It's scary. Don't lose yourself. We'll take a look at more comments from Wonderfully Kree1. I watched the program live this morning, and the presenter said clearly that it's a parody tweet. Tolu Ogunlesi should watch the replay on YouTube. Nigerians reacting to this issue yesterday from Ima Ikume. They reported it on AIT because it was trending online. If you follow the program, you will understand that Kakaki Social is about things trending on social media. That's why they reported what Lalu Akonde tweeted, so as to state the true fact of what happened. And from Chosen Somto, Tolu Ogunlesi's problem is the presenter. It is not a secret that he envies Ohimai. He got a response to this tweet from Henry Banks. Envy Ohimai? For what exactly, please? Tolu can never envy that guy. Ohimai is not professional at all. From Henry Banks tweeting yesterday, I told you guys I was trending yesterday, you didn't believe me, now you can see. Olawumi95 tweeting said, and you are a professional, right? Mr. Fix Nigeria is the only presenter out there actually showing to the leaders, Nigerians and the world, how the people and common Nigerians feel about the ruling class, and lets us know what is trending. Of course, you recall that yesterday we brought you this issue of the reported visit of the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to Ota, along with the DG of the President Buhari's campaign, Rotimi Amechi. This issue was trending in the Nigerian social media. It was not fabricated by AIT. It was not fabricated by Kakaki Social. There was a report on Daily Post which stated exactly what we reported yesterday. This is the story on the website of Daily Post, published November 21st, 2018, as you can see. Osinbajo and Amechi meet Obasanjo. Let's take a look at the next slide, which captures details of that report. As you can see, images have emerged of the meeting. Vice President Prof. Yemi Osinbajo and Director General of the President Muhammadu Buhari Campaign Organization, Rotimi Amechi, held with former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Still in that report from the website of Daily Post, the meeting between the duo and ex-President Obasanjo was held in Ota, Ogun State, behind closed doors. This was Daily Post reporting. A Nigerian online newspaper with a verified Twitter account reported that story. So this was not fabricated at all by AIT or Kakaki Social. Now let's go on and take a look at this issue, which we need to really clarify right now. We don't fabricate stories on Kakaki Social. We don't generate comments on Kakaki Social. The idea of this show is basically to show Nigerians what people are saying on the social media, comments about various issues that are trending, and on this show, issues about President Buhari have been portrayed on this show. On Kakaki Social, issues about the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar have also been presented on this show. So we don't actually know where this is coming from. We are not partisan at all. This is a show that the idea of Kakaki Social is just to show Nigerians what people are saying on the social media. So we don't fabricate comments. And we go on and take a look at this issue that also trended yesterday. Obasanjo asked AIT to retract false report of meeting with Oshibajo in Ota. Of course, we treated this issue yesterday as a trending issue on the social media. Of course, that was a report on Premium Times. Mr. Obasanjo, in a statement by his media aide, Kehinde Akinyemi, on Friday, said the portrayal by AIT was false and also demanded an apology for Mr. Oshibajo for the embarrassment it might have caused him. He expressed disappointment in the station's failure to verify the fake Twitter account before airing it on the station, stating that he was in Sokoto for the Zero Hunger project at the time the false news was aired by the station. Quoting that statement, the media aide of former President Obasanjo, it is a fact that severally the former president has dissociated himself from owning any social media accounts. Therefore, it is highly disappointing that such sensitive Twitter posts would be allowed to go on air without verification by the African Independent Television AIT, Mr. Akinyemi stated. But the truth is, did Mr. Akinyemi actually watch Kakaki Social yesterday? We stated clearly that the tweet we read of the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was a parody tweet. This is a footage of what happened yesterday on Kakaki Social. Let's take a look.
Details of this report. Images have emerged of the meeting Vice President Prof. Yemi Oshibajo and the Director General of the President Muhammadu Buhari Campaign Organization, Rotimi Amechi, held with former President Olusegun Obasanjo. The meeting between the duo and ex-President Obasanjo was held in Ota, Ogun State, behind closed doors. Daily Post reports that the meeting held hours before the book launch of former President Goodluck Jonathan in Abuja. Media people were not allowed to cover the said meeting. This is Daily Post filing this report, claiming that the former president met with Yemi Oshibajo and Rotimi Amechi in Ota before he attended former President Goodluck Jonathan's book launch on Tuesday. But let's take a look at how this generated some talk. These are the photos from that meeting. You can see the DG of the Muhammadu Buhari campaign, Rotimi Amechi, shaking hands with Obasanjo there. This is the image we saw before, and comments already. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo tweeted at Chief_Obasanjo. Well, it's not Chief Obasanjo. This is a parody account of the former president. Twitter said, yesterday, the Vice President of Nigeria, Yemi Oshibajo and Amechi, paid me a visit to seek for my support ahead of 2019 general elections. Despite the innuendo that I'm no longer influential as regards Nigerian politics, I don't know why they're still rushing me. These are not the words of Chief Obasanjo. That's a parody account, just so we're clear. And then from...
Okay, so what's really the furor about, we stated clearly yesterday that it was a parody account of the former president, and I think media aides to people in high places need to apprise themselves with how the social media space works. On Twitter, parody accounts exist. Her Majesty the Queen of England has a parody account in her name. This is the parody account of the Queen of England at Queen_UK. It has 1.5 million followers. Twitter allows users to create parody accounts, and as long as they clearly state that those accounts are parody. And we stated clearly on the show yesterday that it was a parody account, and on the bio of that account, it was also stated clearly that it's a parody of the former president. And if you look also, President of the United States, Donald Trump, celebrities, organizations across the world have parody accounts named after them. So this is Donald Trump's parody account. It has 87,000 followers. Twitter would not shut this down because it is clearly classified as a parody account. It's part of the Twitter rules and regulations. So media aides, before they issue statements on behalf of their principals, need to know these things.
So this is the parody account of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. It's clearly stated, not Chief Dr. Olusegun Obasanjo, parody. And we did not make that mistake of attributing it as the words of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president. We stated clearly yesterday on the show that this was a parody tweet. And like I said earlier on Kakaki Social, the idea is basically in a light-hearted manner sometimes to present to Nigerians issues that are trending, what people are talking about their politicians, things people say about Atiku have been said here, not so complimentary things. Things people say about Buhari have been said on this show, not so complimentary things. It's the way social media is. You win sometimes, you lose sometimes. And let's go on and take a look at yesterday what how we treated this issue. Just to further buttress that, we treated this issue as something that was not verified. Laolu Akonde debunked the report, and we also used Laolu Akonde's tweet debunking that report. Take a look at this clip.
Akonde, media aide to the vice president, tweeted yesterday. He said, "Ignore reports VP Oshibanjo alongside Minister Amechi held meeting with former President Obasanjo in Ota. Yesterday at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on his way to Lagos, VP ran into the former president who had just landed. They exchanged pleasantries, period." So that was what happened, according to Laolu Akonde. It was just a chance meeting at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. They didn't go to Ota, as being claimed on social media to say the former president. And
okay, so I don't know what exactly is the issue. A Nigerian reacting to this issue yesterday, this morning actually tweeted that Cody Esquire, if you know this segment and the manner of reportage of the anchor, you will know that he makes efforts to verify the handles he puts up and even calls out the parody handles. I for one thought OBJ really made the tweet until I saw Kakaki Social yesterday and found it to be fake. So media aides to former President Obasanjo, you should actually be commending AIT for calling out that account as a parody account. Not issuing a statement on behalf of your principal asking AIT to retract the story. It wasn't a news report. It wasn't on the news bulletin of AIT. It was on Kakaki Social, the social media segment of Kakaki, which is a segment that brings issues trending in social media. And we treated it as a parody for the records. So, well, just in case former President Olusegun Obasanjo is still angry, we are very sorry. We retract. We won't do it again. Okay, on that note, we wrap up Kakaki Social this morning. Follow the conversation on our social media platforms at Kakaki Social on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Kakaki Social. I am Ogimaya Maize. Kakaki Social returns on Monday next week at 8 a.m. Stay tuned. Meet the Candidate is still on. I'm joining Shola right now as the conversation continues.
Okay, Ogimaya, nice one there. Those are rebutals and rebutals about what went on Kakaki Social. Nigerians, keep talking to yourselves on social media. It helps to deepen the democracy space. Now we're back with AIT meets the candidates. We have 3 of them in the studios here already with us. We have Yusuf Yagbadi. He is the presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party. Sowore Omoyele is of the Action African Congress. He's still here in the studio.
African Action Congress.
African Action Congress. Okay. And Ahmed Buhari is also here. He's of the Sustainable National Party, the SNP. It sounds like a Scottish National Party. Anyway, he's schooled in the UK, and I'll take my next question to him. So, Ahmed, you have a name that is similar to that of the incumbent in Asura. How have you handled this?
Well, I remember when we started, a lot of people said, we started with my nickname on social media, which is Ahmed B, and a lot of people said, look, you better use your real name because it's going to come hunting later. People might find out your real name is Ahmed Buhari and then start saying, why did you go with a different name? But overall, we like this kinds of discussions because Nigerians have got to separate themselves from how they would normally stereotype people based on names, based on ethnicity, based on even the faith that they practice, and understand that every individual stands in his own realm and you should treat them as individuals, not as what you perceive to be a collective. So it's there. People turn heads sometimes. People who are in support of the current administration will say, we don't like you, even though you're saying something that we like. Some others will say, it doesn't matter, we'll just move along with you. So whatever the case is, I think Nigerians should focus on the issues, Nigerians should focus on the personalities, Nigerians should focus on the antecedents. You should actually probe a little bit further, not just on the surface dressing. And so that's how we managed the name in the last 2.5 years when we declared to run for office of the president, which was the 1st of October 2016. And we're glad that we're still able to sustain this with all the support groups that we've had moving on to the 2019 general election.
Okay, so Ahmed, you run a business, you work in the corporate world.
Right.
You're 38. That's
actually, again, that's a wrong assertion. I'm actually 40.
40, okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, how do you think we can get out of that tag which we have now as a nation about being the poverty capital of the world? How do we drive people?
First of all, I've seen those reports from the World Health Organization, from UNICEF, from other organizations that are international, and I think it's a disgrace upon Africans and particularly Nigerians, because these reports always come from outside the country, outside the continent. We are in the quagmire that we find ourselves because we've not been able to clearly identify how many people truly exist on this continent, especially in Nigeria. So everything you see are figures that have been manipulated, there are projections, there are speculations. Still, as we run this country, as we run the nation, we still haven't had people who will tell us categorically, I have been counted, I know I've been counted, the government counts for me because I share my data with the government. And that is why we can't seem to work with the country. I give you an example. You run a house, you run a home, you have a wife, you have children. You know exactly how many bags of rice you have to buy in that house, tomato, whatever you have to do to make sure the house is running properly, how many children you have to pay school fees for. But now you're running a country where you can't tell exactly how many people exist. And then we always depend on this data coming from the international community. How many children out of school? 30 million? How do you know? I think they are less. How many Nigerians exist? 160? 200? I think we are less. You can argue with that because many people haven't been counted. Many people haven't been accounted for. So to answer your question with regards to what I think we can do to actually move the economy forward, I think government has got to separate itself from doing business. Government's responsibility is to ensure that it puts in place rules, guidelines, and checks and balances to ensure that the private sector is doing exactly what it should do according to the laws of the land. But when we seem to have a government that in every single segment has got it becomes a competitor with the private sector, you can't move forward. The only way you can drive the economy, the only way you can increase jobs, the only way you can reduce unemployment is to ensure that you allow the private sector to thrive. And the only way the private sector can thrive is to ensure that there is power, is to ensure that you have you don't have stringent policies that undermine the progress of this private sector. It is to make sure that you create an enabling environment where foreign investors can come in and say, okay, fine, we can do business in this country. And most importantly, we must understand that before Nigeria can function properly, we have to decentralize. And decentralization goes beyond people talking about pulling sections of this country apart from each other, but we're talking about ensuring that the different institutions that you have in this country are being pushed to the state government. The people need to know who to hold accountable should anything be falling short. Okay. That is why we're not able to run this country as efficient as we should.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Buhari. Now to Yawaji Sani, what is going to be your plan to move Nigeria away from this current situation where we find ourselves as the poverty capital of the world?
Thank you very much. I think Nigeria, like I said, is a promise of greatness, on the continent of Africa. And how did we get there? How we become the promise of leadership in the world, not only in Africa itself, is because we are blessed. We have those things that other countries who have less, maybe less than 10% of what we have, and today they are being described as developed, countries. What I will do, our government will address the issue, like I said, of how do we run the government itself? How do we how do we allow the population, that's Nigerians, how do we carry them along? What I'm saying is that, you see, if you have an economy that is public sector driven, there is no way, especially in a country that you have people who do not even respect our laws. People are not even, they're not even proud of this country. And unfortunately for you, you have them at the helms of affairs. When you take these jumbo laws that will turn us to be slaves in a few years' time, They share the money amongst themselves. So our government will come and drive this economy to become a private sector. Driven economy, because we have all the ingredients, we have everything that you require. Take for instance, I kept talking about the oil and gas sector because even a private company will look at its cash cow and see, how do I manage that cash cow so that I can use whatever I'm getting from that cash cow to develop the other segments of my business. The same thing in a country. You don't joke with your comparative advantage in terms of international trade. You develop that sector, you man that sector properly, you ensure that whatever revenue you get from that country is properly plowed back into the other sector of the economy. That's why you talk about diversification. Diversification, you need money. Diversification does not mean you should go and take jumbo loans. You can use your own internal generated revenue if you now properly arrange, the operation of your sector that has an advantage with other countries. For instance, in the oil and gas sector, why are we not refining our crude oil and gas in this country? Why are we exporting jobs to other countries that have already, are developed? You're asking that question. Other countries are thinking of, like Ghana. Ghana is thinking of refining everything they produce in terms of crude oil within, and they export refined products. In Nigeria today, we have people that have taken us to be fools. Even the one advocated to refine domestically is being sold by the same people who will now go and buy refined products on commissions that they pocket, and then take it to us, and they will tell you they are paying subsidies. Okay. What I'm saying is that Nigeria, this country, the drafters of our constitution are aware of all these things. That is why they have some act of parliament that are supposed to be enforced today. You ask yourself, a country is only as strong as its regulatory agencies. Our regulatory agencies in this country today are the weakest that you can ever find anywhere in the world.
You worked in the NNPC. Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you there.
Yes.
As an engineer,
yes.
Do you think NNPC should be maybe wholly privatized?
You see, when you talk about privatization, I will say yes and no. Yes, if you are bringing foreign investments, if you are not giving it to yourselves, who have no knowledge, who do not even like this country, if you are selling NNPC to yourselves, I will say no. And I would rather say, why don't we go for commercialization? Why don't we open up this NNPC, invite direct foreign investments, so that, and the management also, not only foreign investment, so that they can come with their money and management and run this enterprise for us. Okay. It's not a Nigerian oil and gas sector. It's not a Nigerian enterprise. It's supposed to be run as you have what you call international best practice. If you don't do that, you cannot account for. Today, we don't even know how much we are producing in this country. We don't know how much revenue is coming into this country. CBN does not have a tracking system to tell us how much of export of crude oil that has been sold 90 days that's supposed to be in our account. CBN does not have it. I'm challenging them. Let them tell us.
That's a fine place to
So the point I'm making is that we have to grow, jobs in this country, and the only way we can do it is when you grow your GDP. How we can grow our GDP is to make activities in this country to be high. Your currency is only as strong as your productivity. Okay. Productivity means you have more jobs. So if we make this economy to be private sector driven, believe you me, 100,000 naira you're talking about as minimum wage will be something that you don't even think about.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to security now, and then I am coming to Omoyele Sowore, the presidential candidate of the AAC. There's been a rising wave of insecurity in the country. Boko Haram, that has been supposedly technically defeated, is still carrying out very devastating attacks in several parts of the country, especially up northeast. And also we've seen the herdsmen killings in several parts of Nigeria, especially in the middle belt regions of Nigeria. What is your plan to arrest the security crisis in Nigeria?
Let me tell you this as a reporter that's covered the security issues in Nigeria for the last 12 years, I can tell you that everything revolves around leadership, and we cannot move Nigeria forward without addressing leadership issues. And now it comes to the military. And quite honestly, with due respect to this gentleman to my right and left, the issues at stake are so high. I wish that AIT was honest enough to bring the likes of Buhari, not this Ahmed, but Muhammad Buhari to my left, and Atiku to my right. And I heard is your candidate at AIT. I know you are denying, but you guys are very PDP-ish. Everybody knows that.
That's not correct.
It's true. But let me say that the stakes are so high, we should be debating with people that are not shielding them. These are the people that we need to really discuss the issue of Nigeria. They are the ones who have failed us. And talking about insecurity now, I want to make it very clear. You don't have people fighting Boko Haram in Nigeria. You have people who are doing business with Boko Haram. And I have said this because I reported it before. Under President Goodluck Jonathan, we were reporting in Sahara saying that army generals, both in the Navy, Air Force, and the Army, were stealing from the people. They were just using Boko Haram as a cover to enrich themselves. People said, no, you are wrong, they are fighting. Eventually, when Buhari came in, they found money everywhere, inside cooking pot, in tanks, in sewage, from army generals. When they did the investigation up to the army, when they reached people who were working in the government, they shut down the investigation. When they reached the former chief of army staff, Dambas, who is now Minister of Interior, and when they reached the current chief of army staff, they shut down the investigation. We are deceiving ourselves in this country. The same thing with kidnappings, the same thing with armed robbery, the same thing with the herdsmen. Anytime you see a security issue become a national embarrassment in Nigeria, somebody is benefiting directly from it.
So how did you?
That's what I'm saying. I'm going there directly. I made a proclamation. Now, one of the things we need to do, that a serious president will fire all these army generals. I'm serious, and that's one of the things I'll do as soon as I become the president of Nigeria next year, and bring in, cadre officers who can manage the war. I met with an army captain who said they can eviscerate Boko Haram in 1 month because the forest there has been surrounded for years. So each time they want to move towards Boko Haram, somebody says in Abuja, don't go. BBC even reported it, that there was a time they had Shekau within range to kill him, and somebody called and said, hey, we are calling you up. And now, the Nigerian army that ended the war in Liberia, ended the war in Sierra Leone, has become a ragtag army that Boko Haram can kill 70 soldiers from. And we are here discussing, security issue. We don't have a security issue. We have a leadership problem. And that is why we must change. I can stay here and be reading figures to you, how much we need to spend, but until you change the players, you can't win the game. And that's why we are presenting ourselves. This country has reached a point where we must make revolutionary decisions. We must change the leadership of this country. We must get rid of our political leaders and political soldiers, political custom officers, political naval officers, political air force officers who are not working in the interest of the Nigerian people.
Okay, let me go to Ahmed now. Ahmed, what do you think? We've seen here, Sowore has spoken extensively about what he says he will do to, the armed forces leadership.
We know that.
What's your take? What would you do about reforms of police, the civil authorities?
We know very well that there's a racketeering going on in all of this, and that is why it's an unending war. But you see, I keep thinking about two things. Should I just keep spraying the mosquito to kill it, or should I clean my environment to ensure that the mosquitoes don't come back? These things are very important for us to understand and how to separate. So we've been working very closely with people on the ground when it comes to security matters in the Northeast especially. And one other thing that's happening to us as a people is when this whole thing started from the Northeast a few years ago, most of us said it was a Northeastern problem. Let it remain there. But like everything that starts, sometimes you don't know where it's going to end. The fundamental problem with the Northeast is that the people have lost touch with Nigeria itself. The people do not believe that they belong to this country. And so when you see people voluntarily joining the Boko Haram, it's simply because they find solace more in the Boko Haram than with the Nigerian people. You don't have any infrastructure for the people. You don't have schools, you don't have hospitals, you don't have food, nothing is there for the people. And then here comes Boko Haram, who's probably cashing in on both sides, from whoever is sponsoring them or whatever the Nigerian army or the Nigerian government is doing to actually support them. Now, what I think we should be thinking of doing is to see how we can wage this war from a different perspective. It doesn't have to naturally be a crush war. It can actually become an ideological war where we get the minds of these people understanding that we still like them. Nigeria cares for them. And this doesn't stop with just Boko Haram. It goes across the entire country. Every single segment you turn, every single corner you turn to, you find people who are totally discontented with the country. You find people who do not want to remain in this country. More than half of the people in my generation are actually sitting down today working on how to leave this country. And that is because they do not believe in anything in this country. And the moment they are able to leave this country, they become a menace. Because when they cannot leave, and they cannot live in the country, they start killing the country. People will definitely revolt. And the chaos is not just for the Northeast. You find it in every part of the country. You find clusters of area boys, clusters of different things that society cannot really absorb. And so this vacuum is widening, and a lot of things are going inside the vacuum, and that is because, like he said, the leadership problem is there, not giving the people that hope of belonging.
Mr. Sowore, to put it in proper perspective, if you become president, you are sworn into office on May 29 next year, what would be your first action on the issue of security?
So we have to dialogue, we have to talk. We have to talk to the people, because clearly I have seen a lot of people in the Northeast who went to the Northeast who will tell you, look, I'd rather be with the Boko Haram. We saw how the Boko Haram returned to the grounds and they were celebrating. The people have accepted them as their new officers. They control the region, and that is because they are more available to the people than the Nigerian government itself. The Nigerian government doesn't exist in those areas. We need to talk to these people. We need to calm down. We need to understand that when we're given strategies on how to get Boko Haram, disarm them or something, it's not about going to... I've seen security experts who have actually talked to the Nigerian government to say, you know what, we want you to go into this place to actually have conversations with these people. But what do we see? We see bombs being thrown. So, like he said, I think it's all been arranged. Whenever you see it's about to die, something needs to go up again, and then money keeps going.
So we need to dialogue, and then we'll move on to Yebaji Sani now. The crisis of security in Nigeria, Boko Haram, herdsmen killings. What will you do as president of Nigeria?
Well, in addition to the fact that we need to grow the economy so that everybody will find something to do. I mean, you ask yourself, Nigerians are going, killing themselves in the Sahara, deserts, and then on the Mediterranean Sea, dying. If Nigerians can go to that length, it's very simple. If you have somebody who will just employ them and then provide, at least their basic needs for them, they will be ready to do anything because they are dying. They know that going outside to seek for greener pasture will end up most likely that their life will not be safe. So what I'm saying, what we are going to do is first of all grow this economy. That's critical. Professionalize the army, all the armed forces. Engage in dialogue with these insurgent groups, and then try to see how you integrate them, to reintegrate them into the society, and then you eliminate, what you call Boko Haram or whatever other form of insurgency that you're talking about. So our administration or our government, will take as number one priority, how do we grow this economy? Because it's so can be easily done. This country is the promise of greatness. So and it's what that, because the bottom line of all these problems we're talking about Boko Haram, whatever other vices you want to talk about, it boils down to, are you able to provide jobs for those people that are able and capable? You have spent money, or their parents have spent money on training them, and they come out, they can't find anything to do, for God's sake. So the point I'm making is that we will solve the problem of insecurity by providing jobs. Please, nothing else can be done unless you make people to be a stakeholder in their country. Today,
does that suggest you don't agree with Sowore's suggestion that you would fire the service chiefs on day one?
Professionalizing, maybe professionalization will mean, you may not fire. You can say you will deploy people to other areas, so that, for instance, how do you keep a service chief that has served his term? What are you saying? You are introducing disloyalty in that system. We know that the people serving in the armed forces cherish, and they are always looking forward to that, opportunity to be at the helm of affairs. Now you have a government that somebody has served this term. It's not that they are doing anything fantastic. Because if they are doing something fantastic, we wouldn't have Boko Haram killing people just 2 days ago, you know, then, and you are keeping those people for what reason?
Thank you very much, sir. Before we continue with the next issue, which is anti-corruption, to our viewers watching, you can actually participate in the conversation on our social media platforms at AIT Kakaki on Twitter. The hashtag to use is Meet the Candidates. It's also been scrolled on the screen, just so you can participate. You can send your thoughts, your questions, and your comments to us as the candidates are still with us this morning on this maiden edition of Meet the Candidates.
Okay, let's go to Sowore now. Let's talk about the anti-corruption. What's your perception of the state of this menace in Nigeria as we speak? And what would you do to ensure that corruption is lifted?
You know, I come from a background that has worked a lot fighting corruption as an individual, and I've done it with several other persons. As a reporter, as an activist, and an anti-corruption fighter, and what I would say is that what we need to start doing is to prevent the goats from getting their yams. That's the starting point to fight corruption. Even in advanced countries, in places like the US, the UK, the moment people steal, it costs a lot of money to retrieve or recover the money from them. But in Nigeria, because of the way we do business, the way we conduct our businesses, the way our big men have access to our treasuries, we do not have a way of ensuring that they don't steal before we start running around. And right now, the anti-corruption fight in Nigeria has become a farce because a lot of the people who are corrupt have become so powerful and are in charge of various agencies of government. They are in charge of various institutions of government, including our judiciary, where sometimes you can even find that judges are serving at the pleasure of corrupt persons. And you take the same corrupt person before these judges, you expect them to send them to prison. They don't go to prison. Or when they go to prison, sometimes, you know, I've heard that there are people who were sent to prison and they got a vacation from prison. You know, they get their passports returned to them and they travel outside of the country. What I'm saying here is that, you know, we have to make sure that we use technology to prevent corruption from happening. There's several other things we are doing in this country today that people should not be doing. I use the example of ghost workers, for example. Like with the little technology you have out there, even with a small company, you can use fingerprints to enter into the office, or your retina, technologies that are activated using your eyes before you can enter into the office. But in Nigeria, you can't even find a federal office in Nigeria that has an iron or wooden gates that are functioning properly. We are still using padlock. So many of the offices don't have windows, they have no toilets. So you're talking about ghost workers. You know, maybe when you have 1 million Nigerian workers, 20% or 27% of them are ghost workers. These are things you can get rid of with technology. Even our purchasing processes. I use an example of universities who go out and give contracts to people to buy them laptops. When you can actually, universities are the places where we buy the best laptops from, where I teach. The School of Visual Arts in the US. Anytime I need a laptop, I go to the university store. That's where you can buy. But in Nigeria, universities still give out contracts to contractors who buy them, you know, things that they could purchase over the internet or online. So it's a function of how you use technology to get rid of corruption. It's a function of how you then ensure that people who I refer to as goats, or we know as goats, don't have access to your yard. And most importantly, then you go to deterring people who are thieves. Okay. We cannot continue, for example, giving awards, national awards, to people who are known to be corrupt, or you give them positions, or you call them elder statesmen. You know, they become mentors to children who are looking forward to a brighter future. You allow thieves to be people they look up to, and you want to fight corruption. You're wasting your time. Again, this is why leadership comes in. This is why we have to ensure that we retire these people. And I want to say one thing finally before you go, regarding security, that we need to fire the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And that's what we're about to do next year.
Thank you very much, Sowore. And Ahmed Buhari, what's your take on anti-corruption? What would you do differently from this current administration?
You see, in most cases, it's about clearing the environment so that it doesn't allow whatever it is, the rodents, to thrive. Now, there are two things that make this corruption thrive. The first part is, how do we appoint people, or how do people emerge when they run for political office? The reason why Nigerians do not really fight corruption collectively is because we do not really take part in the process that gets us the elected officials in the first place. I keep letting Nigerians understand that each time a politician comes to you and gives you money because he's running an election campaign, be sure to understand that when he gets into office, he's going to recoup all of that money at an interest rate that only he can determine, and at a return of investment time that only he can determine. So when he gets into office, his first assignment is to see how he can recoup all of the money he got, whether from godfathers, whether from his own pockets. But the reason why he gives this money is because the electorate that he's trying to woo with his nice ideas are still saying, find us something. So you cannot see the people able to go and fight and say, you are actually stealing our collective resources, because they have actually eaten part of it. Now that's the first problem. The second problem has to do with proper data management systems. And when we talk about proper data management systems, they help us fight everything across board. From the people that influx this country through the porous borders, who will come into this country and we don't ask them why they're here, how long they intend to be here, when they intend to leave, how they infiltrate our system, and we cannot even understand who is in Nigeria and who isn't in Nigeria anymore, when the infrastructure that you try to provide for Nigerians because you think there is a certain number cannot suffice because the actual population of the people in the country is beyond your expectation. Now, with the civil service, we've seen where a lot of African countries have actually adopted that standard, where there is no permanent staff in the civil service. Your promotion, your demotion, your expulsion from the civil service is dependent on your performance. There are KPIs that are put in place to ensure that these individuals live up to expectations, and failure to do so, they are being pulled out from the system. So what we're looking at is, if we do not have this proper data management system that will ensure accountability, transparency, and efficiency, you cannot have a thriving civil service, you cannot have a thriving people, you're going to have politicians who will say, okay, this is the budget and this is exactly how we spent it. At this time, we should be able to sit down here and say exactly what the budget was for, how it was spent, and Nigerians will understand and relate with it. But Nigerians do not want to relate with it, because we are also part of the problem. And this is very important, because the electorate, on the other hand, are waiting for you to appoint somebody from their own jurisdiction, their own locality. I hear people say they did not appoint anybody from my local government. How does that affect your life? If somebody from your local government has been appointed, are you trying to say to me that it will make him become more efficient? I think it's because Nigerians would want to go and meet that particular person and say, give us something. But what we should be focusing on is not whether the leadership is picking people from a particular part of the country. Our focus should be, are these people competent? And when they're incompetent, that is when we should raise our voice to say, you are falling short in your delivery.
Okay, let me go to the presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party, Yusuf Yagba. The clamor is on now. Restructuring. What is your take on restructuring?
Well, my take is that the structure in the 21st century economy is supposed to be an ongoing thing. It's not something you stop and say, let's gather people to have conferences, and then after that you don't do anything with the report of the conference. You have a law, you have a constitution, which is a living document. This constitution can be amended at any point in time when you elect the right people to represent you at the right places. What am I saying? We have what we call concurrent list. We have what we call the decision list, of everything that happens in this country in our constitution. It's a matter of taking from one list to the other, and then going forward, you will now have whatever changes that you require, also in your polity, in your economy, in the way we interact with each other. Everything is in that document called the Constitution. And because the Constitution itself cannot work unless you have people that will come out and then administer it, that is why you elect legislators to go and then work for it. What am I going to do? I will make sure that we have rule of law enforced. I will make sure that the act of parliament that are not enforced in this country today, like, take for instance, you have what you call Revenue Mobilization Fiscal Allocation Commission. That commission in a serious country is supposed to be empowered with some kind of business aggressiveness so that they can monitor whatever is flowing into the federation account. They can now determine what goes to the various tiers of the government. You also have an act of parliament that, for instance, if you go to mutual trade investment, there is a department that takes care of how you measure your trade. What you give to another country, what comes to you. You know, so the point I am making is that the structuring is something that's supposed to be an inbuilt, you know, mechanism in a country like this. So why we are not having it right is because of leadership. You know, leadership should have made sure that Nigerians know how much is accruing to us. The Nigerians know how much is going to, you know, it's sector of the economy. Because the whole thing is blank. You know, we don't know how much we are making from crude oil, from oil, for instance, or any other thing for that matter. So you have agencies like AIT. AIT is supposed to work for you to ensure that what you are getting, the processes of getting those revenue from the oil and gas sector is in line with international best practice. They also go further to find out how do you apply those revenue. Okay. So if we are not implementing the laws that we have in the land, you cannot have restructuring. Restructuring, if you are talking about political restructuring, that's a different thing entirely. Right. But if you address the issue of the economy, everybody has a sense of belonging, then this noise about restructuring that you are hearing will die down, because it's because the administration you have today have not taken made any effort to bring people, you know, together, that okay, you belong also, that, and you know the information on what is happening. So all right. We will address it in that way.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to education now. Mr. Omoyele Sowore, the Nigerian education system is usually described as in a state of comatose, in a state of coma. So what would you do specifically about the Nigerian education system to restore it to that path of glory that it used to be several years or decades ago?
Well, I don't know if we want to go back to what we used to do decades ago. We need to understand that the education system of countries around the world have moved and are driven by technology now. What I'll do is investment. We have to invest in education in such a way that we've never done it before. And we have to start breaking down that investment in a way that is specific. For example, if we're talking about 13 million kids out of school, I want to spend 100,000 naira each on every child that is out of school per year, and then make sure that that money takes them back to school. It pays for their books, it pays for learning materials, it pays for their teachers, it pays for lunch programs for them. I'm talking about institutionalized ways of investing in education, not dashing out money on the streets to people and saying that they are getting them to go back to school. We want to do the same thing for secondary schools. We want to infuse technology into the way people learn. I find it shameful, and I mean this, that my daughter in the US has more books in her room than my high school in those states today. And my son can use a laptop, or a tablet, as we call it. And there are university students here who don't even have access to them, or that the university can actually teach people where I teach. I can reach my class if I can't make it to school by staying remotely somewhere and teach my class. And here, several universities don't even have functioning websites. The students don't have email.
So would you increase funding to the sector?
We will increase funding, but beyond that, we have to make education affordable. Okay. People talk about public sector driven economies. It doesn't work like that. If you don't invest in your people, you won't have a public sector, private sector. I wanted to say private sector driven economy. You can't have a private sector that is not operated by sharks, and that's what we have in Nigeria. So you want to give as much, or in fact the best. If I didn't have free education in 1980 to go to secondary school in Ondo State, I'll probably be a palm wine tapper today. And I guarantee you, palm wine tapper will be the best tapping palm wine, by the way. But that investment that came from Awolowo's free education made a lot of impact in my life. It made a lot of impact in a lot of people's life. But today, it's the same people that shut it down that are in charge of the country. As they say in Lagos, the man who shut down the metro line came 20 or 40 years later to commission a bus station. So it's investment and ensuring that we make education free. I wanted to say finally, please, that during my own time, we're going to make monies available to university students. For every person that's staying in university, 100,000 study allowance will be made available to you. Okay. If you graduate and you don't work in the public sector, you pay us back. If you do work in the public sector for 4 years, that money doesn't get, you don't get asked.
Okay, hold it there. Mr. Buhari, if you're elected president next year, will you travel abroad for medical treatment?
I'm not traveling abroad now for medical treatment. I'm fine to stay here. I think it's beyond just the infrastructure that we have for the health sector. It has also a lot to do with the kind of services that we have in those buildings that we think we have created. So for me, with regards to the health sector, I think the fundamental missing element is facility management. So we have some buildings that exist and we think they truly are medical centers, but when you go in there, they have nothing to offer. So our plea is for us to have a country that is moving forward with regards to healthcare and things like that. We must have proper facility management systems. We must have the right kinds of staffing to actually operate those places. And you know, when we talk about data and how to process data, a lot of people seem not to understand what we're talking about. You cannot successfully have this kind of infrastructure reaching the people if you do not know how many people exist. So as I speak with you right now, the government is probably planning to site another hospital in Asok Road, when in reality the people in the rural areas are the ones that need these things. When you have proper data systems, you know exactly where you need people, where this infrastructure needs to meet with those people. And that is why we're looking at places like Kano, where you find a lot of DVF and issues like that. And you think that the problem is just because they're marrying at young age, but not really. It's because before they can get access to healthcare, it is too late.
Okay, so Mr. Buhari, you will not travel abroad online, guys, if you become president.
I just answered you that.
Okay, so let's go to Mr. Yusuf Bagbali for your closing statements. A minute.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for doing this, but like one of my colleagues here said, you need to really bring people that in power now, or people that have had power before and have put us where we are today, so that we can really engage them properly and tell them that they have served their term and they should please allow this space to be operated.
They are watching you, they're listening.
Yeah, they're listening, but I'm telling you that the fact of the matter is that we have a golden opportunity to make it right, get it right in this country. And getting it right means that stop doing the same thing the same way, so that you can now begin to have the results that we deserve. So this country, like I say, is a promise for greatness. This country represents the future, you know, a great future, because I believe if you look back, countries that started with us in 1960 or so, like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, you can see where they are today. Indonesia, for instance, has over 1.1 trillion, GDP today. And look at Nigeria with the population we have, with the promise we have. We have just 300 something, under $365 billion, GDP. For God's sake, what are we talking about? We have more population, we have more resources. Nigerians, please wake up. You are not supposed to be poor, you are not supposed to be killing yourselves, you are not supposed to be hating yourself, you're supposed to love yourself.
1 minute.
And this country is a promise for that.
Thank you very much.
So that's what our government, my administration will do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yabadi. Just to make a very quick clarification, Meet the Candidates is a platform to help candidates meet the Nigerian people and share with them their programs and their policies. So it's an opportunity for you as a presidential candidate to talk about your programs, your plans and your policies to the Nigerian people. Mr. Sowore, very quickly, in 1 minute, your closing statements.
Thank you. I just want to call on Nigerians that here comes another opportunity for us to make historical decisions, far-reaching revolutionary decisions, and that it is not enough to vote next year. We have to vote for credible leaders, and this might sound a little bit stale because we hear this all the time, but it is particularly important that we do not choose between the two major candidates of the two major political parties now. Both of them handicapped by incompetence, handicapped by corruption. You cannot vote into power a person who has been cited and indicted somewhere for collecting bribes of $40 million and can't even travel far and wide and expect that this country will experience prosperity and progress in future. Okay, you also cannot, don't be afraid, calm down, my 1 minute is not over. And you cannot also vote for someone who is incompetent, who is known not to have produced anything or made this country move in any direction. I expect a different result. Vote for results-oriented, fresh, progressive, young candidates like myself, and the best option you have is Sowore becoming the president of the Federal Republic.
Mr. Ahmed Buhari, closing statements quickly.
Thank you very much. I think Nigerians must understand that the problem is the same across the board. There is no section of this country that is, alien to the what's going on or affecting us as a people. And so for us, I think most importantly, Nigerians must come collectively to ask for accountability, transparency, efficiency, and good governance from our elected officials. And the only way you can do that is by participating. But most importantly, I want us to understand that only a united front can actually get us moving forward as a country, that can give us prosperity, that can give us progress, that can give us security. So I'm standing firm here and saying that we started this movement early, and we are still insisting that for us to have a progressive country, for us to have a successful country, Nigerians must unite, Nigerians must go out and vote, and ensure that we stand on the policy document that we have presented.
Thank you very much. You've been watching Meet the Candidates, the maiden edition of Meet the Candidates, the platform on AIT Kakaki to help the presidential candidates talk to the Nigerian people about their programs, their plans, and their policies. And we've had in the studio this morning the presidential candidates of the Action Democratic Party, Yagbaji Sani. We've also had the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore. Sowore, there's a talk on social media that you're one of those who is trying to help President Buhari divide the votes.
I know. I will come back because I said we are pretty
okay. And then we also had this morning the presidential candidate of the Sustainable National Party, Mr. Ahmed Buhari. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, and it's now time for us to hand you to our colleagues Salamatu Ibrahim and Chikodina Kaize for the wrap of Friday's edition of Kakaki. But don't forget that this discussion will continue. AIT meets the candidates
next week Friday.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. You might end Shola quite exclusive and say, well, we tell our viewers to keep their comments coming as you can see below your screen. Your views are being shown. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. We'll see you again next week Friday on another edition of Meet the Candidates. In the meantime, have a wonderful weekend. I am Salamatu Ibrahim.
I am Chikodina Kaize. So have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Only mine. When you went to take social media wherever, there was a long shot, right? They took a long shot.
I think they.
And I saw that platform under Mr. Shola's.
So Salai, they showed that I'm on the platform. Because you know, that is not the trend on social media. And it gives 6 or 7 extra issues.
Mr. Sowore.
Thank you very much.
All channels.
Yeah.
Where is photographer?
Mr. Buhari, am I sending it?
Martin,
Please bring up the platform also. We will take picture of this guy.
No, let them see you're too high.
I think in the middle. Can they pop up the Meet the Candidates on the wall? You just stay wall.
Okay,
put the Meet Candidates. Okay, I'm
offended to be on social media.
Right. I love what you did today. Can we, is it possible to have it? No. Okay.
Okay, this one's the last one.
Okay. No, they do. Because of us, he didn't watch it. Even the essay didn't watch it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, because I was very
I did.